So tell your mama dig her up and post a picture that look better than my mama. My dad is dig that up. How y'all raised? I'm not raised. Go. I'm not going about my mama, nigga. I'm not going. So tell your mama dig her ass up and post a picture that look better than my mother.
Welcome back to BuzzBuster. I'm glad you're here. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss daily videos. 50 Cent is reportedly setting up a documentary that could seriously shake up the Harris family.
Well, look at here. Now get the fuck buddy. Look at this, man. Things will get worse before they get better, or they will get better before they get worse. But this right here, I don't know what it is. I don't think it's Photoshop.
And if even half of these rumors are real, this could spiral out of control fast. King might end up regretting every word he said, because this isn't just talk anymore. It's turning into something way bigger than online back-and-forth drama.
But this is crazy, little King Harris. I'm not saying this is true, but it's over, man. This zesty video of Harris or whatever he was doing, I don't know, but this looks real caring and zesty.
This situation is leveling up into something heavy, and the tone is getting serious real quick. Back in early March 2026, whispers started moving around that 50 Cent was working on a project called Surviving T.I. and Tiny, and just that title alone had people side-eyeing hard. Before anything even dropped, King Harris was already deep in the chaos, going straight at 50 with zero hesitation. "Come here, broski. Come here, broski." That energy wasn't subtle at all. When people started talking about King Harris, T.I. and Tiny's son, he had already jumped in head first, dropping a 50 Cent diss track and making sure everybody heard it loud and clear.
"Come here, broski, come here, broski. I talk about King Harris, man, T.I.'s son. Dropped the 50 Cent diss track."
He didn't stay quiet for a second. He pushed videos, dropped diss tracks, printed shirts, and even rolled out a cannabis product, all aimed directly at 50. Nothing about this move was low-key. Nothing was slick or hidden. It was loud, bold, and clearly meant to stir things up and get attention. To really understand how this situation flipped, you have to see just how far King took it. This wasn't regular rap beef energy. It got personal in a way most people in hip-hop usually avoid. In one viral clip, King said, "Your mama, daddy. I'm not raised like that," trying to defend himself after 50 posted an unflattering image of his mother, Tiny. But instead of cooling things down, everything escalated fast, and the tone shifted into something way more intense. King didn't hold back at all. He locked in on 50 and made it clear he wasn't backing down from anything. A lot of people saw it as a 21-year-old pushing things way too far just to grab attention online. And 50 Cent, known for playing the long game and never letting anything slide, was watching it all closely.
"My boy, this might be the best song you've ever dropped in your entire life. However, I wasn't gonna say it was a good tune, but it is the best in your entire life. Factually give you that one."
Every post, every video, every lyric, every product, nothing slipped past him. At the same time, the internet did what it always does. Nothing disappeared. Screenshots got saved instantly. Videos kept spreading, and commentary pages broke everything down piece by piece. It created a digital trail that couldn't be erased no matter how much time passed or how anyone tried to explain it later. That record became more than just old drama. It turned into proof of how far things really went. So when talk of the documentary started heating up, those moments didn't feel like rumors anymore. They looked like receipts. Everything people had seen before suddenly carried more weight, and the story started building itself almost overnight. The narrative shifted fast. People began saying King had gone too far, and now 50 looked like he had the ultimate move ready to shut everything down completely. That's when the change in King's energy started making more sense, because when something that big is possibly coming, the pressure hits different. To really understand how things got this intense, you have to rewind way back, before King was even part of the situation. This didn't start with diss tracks, Instagram clips, or documentary rumors. Not even close. This goes back to the early days between 50 Cent and T.I., two major names rising at the same time, but from completely different worlds, moving around each other while quiet tension built underneath. Back in 2003, 50 Cent dropped Get Rich or Die Tryin', a project filled with raw stories about surviving 9 gunshots and fighting his way out of Queens, New York. That album didn't just do well, it took over and locked his position in the game instantly. That same year, T.I. stepped in with trap music, helping shape Atlanta's sound and pushing himself into the spotlight as the self-proclaimed King of the South. 2 different sounds, 2 different cities, but both dominating at the exact same time, and that contrast set the stage for everything that followed. Both artists were building massive followings at the same time.
I ain't even gonna hold. So he dropped a diss track. So if you haven't seen, 50 Cent posted his mom. T.I. dropped a diss track as well. 50 Cent and T.I. been going back and forth. Obviously, man like King got involved now because obviously after 50 Cent posted his mom, enough was enough for him.
Moving serious numbers and holding loyal strength from their regions. And back then, the gap between New York and the South wasn't just about music style. It ran deeper than that. You could see it in album sales, radio spins, award nominations, and industry recognition. Even when nobody said it out loud, that competitive energy was always there, like a quiet standoff that never fully disappeared. It sat in the background for years, waiting for the right moment to surface. For a long time, things stayed calm on the outside. No direct diss tracks, no explosive interviews, no viral clashes. Just 2 major figures existing in the same space, whether out of respect or simply choosing not to engage. But that calm didn't last forever, because everything shifted around 2020 when Versus took over during the pandemic. Created by Swizz Beatz and Timbaland, Versus became a huge cultural moment where legendary artists faced off by playing their biggest hits live. And that's when T.I. started calling out 50 Cent publicly, making it clear he wanted that matchup and that spotlight. He didn't stop there either. T.I. brought up the 2007 sales battle between 50's Curtis and Kanye West's Graduation, a moment 50 famously lost, which led to him stepping back from music for a while. By bringing that up, T.I. wasn't just suggesting competition, he was digging into history and putting real pressure on 50 in front of everyone. What used to be quiet tension suddenly had a spotlight on it. And once that door opened, it was only a matter of time before things started getting louder and way more personal. T.I. kept pushing the idea that he had everything needed to go head-to-head: the catalog, the hits, and the cultural weight to match 50 Cent bar for bar. And he didn't just say it once, he took that message everywhere. Podcasts, radio, interviews, Instagram lives, constantly building the narrative that this was a battle the culture needed to see. But 50 wasn't going for it at all, and that refusal only added more tension to an already loaded situation. Time after time, 50 Cent shut the whole idea down publicly, whether it was on Instagram, in interviews, or during podcast appearances. He made it crystal clear he wasn't interested.
He also then got and dropped a diss track. Listen, I listened to the joint. It's the first time I ever looked in for a King Harris joint, and I'm not gonna hold you, it wasn't that bad.
And he didn't soften it at all. Instead, he pointed straight to a success in television, especially the Power franchise on Stars, as proof that he had moved into a completely different lane. In his eyes, music battles felt like something from the past, something he had already left behind. That response hit hard, and not just because he said no, but because of how he said it. The tone made it feel dismissive, and that's what really got under T.I.'s skin. 50 didn't treat it like a serious offer at all. He brushed it off like it wasn't even worth talking about, like T.I. was reaching for a spot he hadn't earned. And that kind of energy doesn't just fade away, especially for someone who built a career claiming the title King of the South and backing it up with real results. From T.I.'s point of view, this didn't feel like simple rejection. It felt like straight disrespect. He didn't see 50 as uninterested. He saw it as a mix of ego and avoidance, and that interpretation kept the tension alive and growing. The back and forth didn't explode all at once, but it stayed active in small moments online. Just enough comments, posts, and subtle shots to keep things heated without turning into a full-blown war. That uneasy balance held for a while, until everything cracked open in February 2026. That's when T.I. appeared on Shannon Sharpe's Nightcap podcast and took things to a whole new level. He didn't hold back at all. He openly called 50 Cent a coward and claimed that behind closed doors, 50 had actually been open to doing verses at one point. According to T.I., the energy shifted once things became public, and that's when he says 50 backed off and changed his stance completely. Bringing that up wasn't random. It was a calculated move to highlight what he saw as inconsistency and apply pressure in front of a massive audience. And once those statements were out there was no going back to Quiet Tension.
It's not a good song. I'll kind of dibble and dabble in other songs he dropped before. Terrible. I'll put them straight in the bin. But listen, sometimes you gotta say, maybe this is what you need to get in your little rap band.
Everything was out in the open now, and the momentum started building fast. T.I. turned things up even more by dropping a diss track called Let 'Em Know, and he made sure it landed with impact by filming the video right in New York City, sending a loud message that he was stepping directly onto 50's territory without hesitation. Filming that video in New York, 50 Cent's home turf, sent a loud message all by itself. It was bold, direct, and clearly intentional. In the track, T.I. went straight at 50, calling out his age, his move into acting, and what he described as cracks in that tough image. He questioned whether that persona still held up the same way, but 50 didn't respond with music, not even a little. Instead, he moved in a completely different way. Calm, calculated, and strategic. He pulled up an old clip from a 2003 legal situation involving T.I., one that raised questions about cooperation with law enforcement, and pushed it right back into the spotlight. That wasn't just a response, that was a precise move. In hip-hop, being labeled a snitch carries serious weight. It's not just a quick insult. It can affect credibility, image, and how someone is viewed across the culture. With that one move, 50 flipped the entire conversation. This wasn't about hit songs or catalog anymore. That part was done. Now it became about character, reputation, and who people believed and respected the most. And once things reached that level, it's hard to walk it back. That moment shifted everything, and you can trace a lot of what followed right back to it. From there, things started getting more personal. Family names got pulled into diss tracks, comments became more intense, and even the talk of a documentary started gaining traction. What began as competition turned into something much heavier, something that couldn't just be smoothed over or ignored online. Once that line was crossed, it stopped feeling like entertainment and started looking like a long-term battle over image, control, and influence. And 50 Cent is not new to playing that kind of game.
Antagonize you a little bit, pause. Anyways, listen. Decent song. Ain't gonna get 50 Cent responding though. He might do a little meme on the Instagram thing. This is the thing, like 50 Cent ain't gonna drop a tune. I said this when T.I. dropped the joint. Don't expect back and forth music.
He's built a reputation on timing, strategy, and knowing exactly how to shift public attention in his favor, and he's done it more than once. That's where the difference really showed. T.I. came with music, bars, and direct energy, but 50 came with something bigger, a full strategy behind him, moving pieces in a way that hit far beyond just a song. Connections, platforms, and the ability to control narratives on a massive scale. That's where the real difference showed up. That gap in power started shaping everything that followed, and it set the stage for this situation to grow way beyond just two people. Stepping into something like that without fully understanding how intense it can get is a huge risk, and that's exactly what happened with King Harris. He walked straight into a fire that was already burning, not realizing how fast things could spiral once he got involved. By the time King entered the picture, the tension between 50 Cent and T.I. was already personal and already heated, but his involvement changed everything. What started as a back and forth between two major figures quickly turned into a family situation, spreading across social media and pulling in way more attention than before. King Harris, born August 25, 2004, didn't grow up out of the spotlight. He was raised in front of cameras and public attention. He appeared on VH1's T.I. and Tiny: The Family Hustle, which ran from 2011 to 2017 and gave viewers a close look into their everyday lives. Because of that, a lot of people felt like they already knew him. They had watched him grow up and form his personality over the years. By the time all of this escalated, King was 21 years old, at a point where he had full control over his decisions, but was still moving with a lot of emotion and reacting in real time. He had already built a reputation for being outspoken, especially from viral clips on the show where he had intense arguments with his parents and didn't hold anything back. That same energy followed him straight into this situation, and this time, the stakes were way higher. What pulled King directly into the middle of all this wasn't random, it came from a specific moment. During one of the exchanges with T.I., 50 Cent posted an unflattering photo of Tiny Harris on Instagram. That single move shifted the tone instantly, because now it wasn't just about two artists anymore, it brought family into it in a very public way. Once that line got crossed, the response came fast, and that's when everything really started to escalate. King and his older brother Damani both stepped in to defend their mother, standing together as a unit.
50 Cent's an unk. He ain't really out here doing music anyway. My guy's making movies and TV shows and whatever power he's gonna bring out next. You feel me? Like every time there's a power ting, power that, power ebook, power book 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
But even though they were on the same side, their approaches felt completely different. Damani stayed more controlled and measured, while King came in with way more intensity, and that contrast ended up shaping how everything played out. King entered the situation loud, emotional, and non-stop, and once he started, he didn't slow down at all. His energy was high, and it showed in everything he did. He dropped a video going directly at 50 Cent's late mother, and it spread across the internet fast. Within hours, it was everywhere. The message hit hard, the intent was clear, and people reacted immediately. In that clip, King kept repeating himself, making sure the message landed exactly how he wanted. He wasn't trying to be subtle, he wanted it to sting, and for a moment, it definitely grabbed attention. But not all attention helps, and this situation proved that quickly. Instead of building support, it started putting a spotlight on him in a way that created more problems than opportunities. The reaction wasn't just noise, it came with real criticism, and the tone around him began to shift. And instead of pulling things back, King pushed even further. He doubled down with t-shirts, a cannabis product, and more music aimed directly at 50 Cent. The situation didn't stay individual either. The Harris family as a whole stepped in. Altogether, around 6 diss tracks were released targeting 50 Cent. King contributed records like Drop Top, going directly at personal history, while Damani added his own verses to support the message. T.I. didn't stay quiet either. He joined in with multiple tracks, speaking on his catalog and taking shots at 50's move into Hollywood. At that point, it turned into a full family front. Everyone had a role, and the message was loud and clear. They weren't backing down.
When T.I. spoke on it in interviews, his stance felt layered. He admitted he didn't like seeing his kids pulled into negative situations, but at the same time, he respected their loyalty. He even said, "Nah, my kids ride now," making it clear they were ready to stand for the family no matter what. In hip-hop culture, that kind of loyalty gets respect. It's seen as standing solid for your people.
Harris is doing exactly what Diddy thought his son was going to be doing for him. Because why is he taking it so far? Well, actually, no, I can't say I don't understand why he's taking it so far. I understand, but I just didn't expect it to come from him. Because 50 Cent has attacked.
But that support also came with consequences. While it sounded strong, it also signaled approval of how far things had gone. And King's approach, intense and aggressive, started pushing away the same audience he needed to grow. What looked like strength in the moment started creating distance, and that shift became impossible to ignore. What once looked like bold moves slowly started turning into a real problem. More people began questioning whether King had pushed things too far without thinking about the bigger picture. And that's when everything shifts in a serious way, because this is the moment when the internet stops watching for entertainment and starts watching for consequences. The same clips that once brought him attention started getting replayed under a completely different lens. Now people were breaking down every word, every move, and every decision he made. The tone changed, and the energy around him wasn't the same anymore. The pressure didn't hit all at once, but it built up fast. Reaction channels, bloggers, and social media pages kept resurfacing his statements, lining them up next to the growing talk about 50 Cent's documentary. It wasn't just about what was said anymore, it was about how it could all be used later. That shift changed how people viewed everything happening behind the scenes. Even King's tone reportedly started to look different. The same confidence he showed at the beginning now felt less certain as talk of the documentary kept getting louder. Because this wasn't just another diss track or a quick online exchange. This was something bigger, something structured, something permanent, something that could reach way beyond a viral moment. And when you look at 50 Cent's history, that's where the concern really starts to make sense. He's not known for reacting quickly. He's known for being patient, strategic, and choosing the perfect moment to make his move. If a project like this actually comes together, it wouldn't just revisit the drama, it could reshape the entire story in a way that sticks with people. And that possibility alone started changing how people looked at King. The same bold energy that once brought him attention now had people asking serious questions. Did he move too fast? Did he think about the long-term impact? Because once something is documented, edited, and released on a major platform, it doesn't just fade away. It sticks, and it can define the narrative long after the moment passes. It hits different when something is packaged and presented later compared to something posted in the moment. And at the same time, the Harris family found themselves in a tough position. Standing together showed unity.
So many people, he has gone off on so many people in like the worst way, and it doesn't seem like anyone has been able to meet him where he's at or is a good match for him. And it just so happens that it's randomly T.I.'s son, like, because he's digging up old things from 50 Cent's past to the point where I think 50 Cent took down the post of him making fun.
But it also meant everything became connected. Every statement, every response, every track, it all started feeding into one bigger story that people were watching closely. And this is where things get complicated fast. Once a situation reaches this level, there's no easy reset button. The internet doesn't forget, and it definitely doesn't stop replaying moments that get strong reactions. What started as defense slowly turned into escalation, and what felt controlled in the moment began to look unpredictable over time. That shift changed how people were viewing everything. Now, all eyes are on what happens next, because if this documentary actually drops, it could lock in a version of events that's hard to challenge. And for King, that means every move from here carries more weight than ever before, whether he planned for it or not. The real issue here wasn't just emotional, it was structural, and that's what made it serious. King stepped into a situation that required patience, timing, and control, but instead, he kept reacting in real time. Every time he pushed things further, another video, another product, another diss track, he added more pressure to a situation that was already intense. And the biggest issue, none of it seemed to give him any real advantage. There was no clear win, no shift in leverage, no strong position gained. Meanwhile, 50 Cent didn't even need to respond. The impact was already unfolding without him doing much at all. Each move King made started painting a picture, and it wasn't one working in his favor. Every new clip, every new line made him seem more unpredictable, while at the same time making any future response from 50 Cent feel more justified in the eyes of the public. That's how the narrative started turning, slowly but clearly. Some of King's statements, especially the ones involving a deceased parent, brought heavy criticism across the internet. A lot of people felt that crossed the line, no matter what started the situation.
To many, there's a clear difference between going back and forth with someone who can respond and bringing up someone who can't. Once that line is crossed, the reaction tends to hit much harder. That distinction mattered, and it shaped how people judged the entire situation. On top of that, the gap in experience was impossible to ignore. King, at 21, was going at someone nearly 30 years older, a media figure who has spent decades mastering strategy, timing, and public perception. That's not an even playing field, and it showed clearly. Meanwhile, 50 Cent stayed calculated the whole time. He didn't flood the internet with diss tracks or long responses. Instead, he kept it minimal.
posted memes, short captions, and subtle messages that kept people guessing. At one point, he even dropped a promo track tied to his Power Origin series with a line people took as a warning: "They're gonna learn to leave me alone." That message didn't need to be loud to land. It hit anyway. The contrast between both sides was obvious. The Harris family kept putting out content, trying to control the narrative in real time. Meanwhile, 50 stayed quiet, letting anticipation build on its own.
It got that bad that 50 Cent took the post down. King is going to the gravesite, or I think he got pictures of 50 Cent's mom, headstone, posted that, talking about go dig her up and tell me what she looks like.
And that kind of restraint isn't random, it's strategy. He's done this before, again and again. He absorbs pressure, watches everything, and waits for the perfect moment to respond in a way that hits harder than expected. It happened with Ja Rule, it happened with Rick Ross, and the pattern hasn't really changed. The approach is simple but effective. Let the other side keep pushing, then come back with something they can't easily counter. And in this situation, the response didn't look like it was going to be just a diss track or a quick post. It looked like something much bigger, something built to last. A full documentary designed not just to win a moment, but to reshape how people see the entire story. That's where things started to feel serious for their side, because while they were responding in quick bursts, the anticipation was building towards something heavier than anything they had put out. Diss tracks can come and go, but a documentary hits differently. It's structured, detailed, and sticks with people longer. And if that kind of project drops at the right time, it doesn't just respond, it can define the narrative moving forward. And 50 Cent has already shown in the past that he knows exactly how to use that kind of platform. So when word started spreading in early March 2026 that he might be working on a project called Surviving T.I. and Tiny, people paid attention immediately. That title alone carried serious weight. It echoed Surviving R. Kelly, a docuseries that had a huge impact on public opinion and even influenced real-world consequences. By choosing a name like that, 50 wasn't being subtle at all. He was setting the tone before anything even dropped. This wasn't being framed like a recap of a rap feud, not even close. The way people were talking about it made it sound deeper, more serious, and way more intense. Something aimed at questioning reputations and putting everything under a microscope. And that kind of pressure hits differently. 50 even added fuel to the speculation himself. At one point, he posted a screenshot of a radio article discussing the documentary, and in the caption he wrote, "Remember how quiet I got before the documentary, Dame?" That line stood out because it hinted at a pattern, staying quiet and coming back with something major. Even though the post didn't stay up long, the message was already out there. And once people started connecting the dots, the conversation shifted again. Now it wasn't about if things would escalate, it was about when and how big the impact would be. Then things got even more direct. A message surfaced saying, "Thought I wasn't coming. I hope this doesn't mess up your promo tour. They're gonna ask about your 20 cases. You might want to talk to a crisis PR person." That hit hard. It wasn't random. It felt calculated, pointed, and designed to signal that something much bigger could be on the way.
Crazy. And then he's pulling up the old stuff where 50 Cent was in court and he pled guilty to trampling those women. He pulled that up out of...
50 Cent has shown before that he knows how to take existing allegations, rumors, and public conversations and shape them into something structured and impossible to ignore. When he moves like that, it doesn't just stay online. It turns into a full cultural moment. And once it reaches that level, it can shift how people view the entire situation long term, not just for a moment, but in a way that sticks. With that post, a clear line was drawn. This wasn't new territory for 50 Cent. He's done this before, and he's done it effectively. And now, all signs pointed to him possibly setting things up again, but on an even bigger scale. The reference to 20 cases wasn't vague either. It pointed directly toward the allegations that have surrounded T.I. and Tiny since 2021, making it clear what the rumored documentary could focus on and why the situation suddenly felt a lot more serious. Those allegations have been a major topic of discussion for years. Starting in 2021, multiple women came forward with claims involving misconduct, including accusations of being drugged and placed in situations they described as non-consensual. As more people spoke out, the
conversation grew quickly and gained widespread attention.
A key figure in bringing attention to these claims was Sabrina Peterson, a former associate who used social media to share anonymous accounts and amplify what was being said. According to those reports, some individuals described being given substances at gatherings and later experiencing situations they said they did not agree to. Legal action followed over time, including lawsuits that extended into 2024. However, it's important to note that several cases were dismissed for procedural reasons, such as timing limits under the law. There have also been no criminal convictions connected to these allegations. T.I. and Tiny have consistently denied all accusations. They've stated that any aspects of their private lives were fully consensual and have strongly pushed back against the claims. Even with those denials, the situation has remained in the public eye, and if a documentary brings those allegations back into focus, the impact could be significant. This is where things start to feel heavier.
I don't even remember that. Then he also dug up the fact that 50 Cent allegedly set ablaze his baby mom's house while his child was in the home.
Because once allegations like these are presented in a documentary format, the conversation changes completely. It's no longer scattered posts or headlines people scroll past. It becomes a structured story that audiences sit down, watch, and take in from beginning to end. If a project like this moves forward, it likely wouldn't just repeat what's already out there. It could organize timelines, connect different accounts, and present everything in a way that feels cohesive and hard to ignore. And that kind of presentation can reshape how the public understands a situation, even for people who haven't followed it closely before. For the Harris family, that creates a completely different level of pressure, because at that point, it's no longer about reacting in the moment. It becomes about how a larger narrative is presented and remembered over time. Responding to diss tracks or social media posts is one thing, but responding to a full production is a completely different level. You can't just drop a quick video or a song and expect it to hit the same way. The scale is bigger, and the impact lasts much longer. At the same time, public opinion doesn't wait for full context. It reacts instantly. Clips get shared, quotes get pulled, and narratives start forming before the full story is even out. That's what makes situations like this so unpredictable. Once it starts moving, it's hard to slow it down. Then there's timing.
That is crazy. And my thing is T.I. happy or upset? Like, is he happy that his son is standing up for his mom?
And this is where things get even more calculated. Dropping something like this around key moments, tours, releases, big appearances, can shift attention overnight. Promotion suddenly becomes damage control, and the whole energy around a rollout can change fast. For King, this brings everything full circle in a way he might not have expected, because now all his earlier actions, the videos, the comments, the diss tracks, they don't stand alone anymore. They become part of a bigger storyline that people will go back and review with a completely different perspective. And that's the part that hits the hardest. What once felt like quick reactions in the moment now carries long-term weight. The internet already saved everything, but a documentary could repackage those moments, give them new context, and push them to an even wider audience at the same time. At this stage, it's not just about who said what anymore. It's about who controls the narrative going forward. And if this project actually drops, it could shape how this entire situation is remembered, not just right now, but long into the future. Here's the reality. A documentary doesn't need a legal outcome to have impact. What it needs is a strong narrative, something structured, edited, and presented in a way that pulls everything together into one story people can follow. With 50 Cent's production experience and media reach, he has the tools to build something like that from the ground up. This isn't just speculation either. there's already a clear example of how powerful that approach can be. Surviving R. Kelly didn't create a conviction on its own, but it shifted public opinion in a major way.
And then is he also upset that his son is taking it so far? Like, is he proud of his son? Did his son prove his worth now? Like, I want to...
It changed how people talked about the situation, how they viewed the allegations, and brought a level of attention that couldn't be ignored. And that kind of shift creates real pressure that can change everything. Now it's starting to look like a similar blueprint could be in play here. And for T.I., the stakes feel extremely high. He spent years building an image that goes far beyond music, positioning himself as a leader, a businessman, and someone involved in community work and public speaking. From ventures like the Trap Music Museum to real estate moves, everything has been tied to a reputation built carefully over time, and a documentary that brings past allegations back into focus, especially in a polished, widely viewed format, could disrupt all of that.
Partnerships could become uncertain, public support could shift, and opportunities that depend on trust and image could start slipping away. That's how powerful perception is when it changes all at once. For King, this situation hits even closer. It connects directly to his future. His music career is still growing, and a big part of his visibility comes from his family name and the platform that comes with it. That connection can open doors, but it also means any damage to the family brand can follow him just as quickly. If the Harris name takes a hit, King feels it too, and not in a small way. It can affect how labels see him, how audiences respond to his music, and how seriously he's taken moving forward. These aren't problems that can be fixed with a diss track or a viral clip. At this level, everything is connected. Reputation, business, family, and future all tied together. And if this documentary becomes real, it won't just be another moment in a feud, it could reshape how everything is viewed going forward. Labels start thinking twice when controversy surrounds an artist. Collaborators may take a step back. Playlists get more selective, and opportunities don't come as easily as before. That's just how the industry moves. If a project like this lands the way people expect, the ripple effects won't stay online. They could reach every part of King's career, right when he's trying to build his own identity as an artist. And what makes it even more complicated is the irony behind it all. King stepped into this situation to defend his family name, to protect it and stand up for it publicly. But in trying to defend his family, King may have unintentionally added more fuel to the very narrative working against them. Every video, every comment, every heated moment, it's all out there now. Clips of him going after 50 Cent's mother can easily be pulled into a larger storyline and replayed in a completely different context. Lyrics from diss tracks can be quoted, broken down, and used to shape a certain image. And what felt like in the moment can be reframed into something much heavier when it's edited and presented to a wider audience. That's where everything shifts, from reaction to consequence. Because once content leaves your control, it can be reshaped in ways you never intended. And in this situation, King's most intense moments could end up being used as key pieces in a much bigger narrative. There's also been a wave of online chatter suggesting that T.I. may be concerned about how things are unfolding, especially with early talk about the direction this could be heading. Some gossip platforms have gone even further, painting a picture of King as someone who stepped into something too big and is now trying to figure out how to navigate it. None of that has been officially confirmed, but the fact that people are even having that conversation shows how fast perception can shift. There have also been rumors about King possibly trying to reach out to 50 Cent. Again, nothing verified, but people understand why that idea is being discussed. Because this isn't just another rap moment anymore. It's something that could carry long-term consequences on a completely different level. And right now, one thing is clear. The energy has changed. King Harris, who was once everywhere during the peak of this situation, has gone noticeably quiet. And that silence is being watched just as closely as everything he said before. Because at this stage, every move, or even the lack of one, becomes part of the story too. That silence speaks in its own way.
Mama, like your mama ain't dead. Go put some flowers on that grave.
When someone who was constantly active suddenly pulls back, People start asking questions fast. The same platforms that once amplified his voice are now analyzing his absence, trying to figure out what changed and what might be coming next. Some see it as strategy, a step back before things escalate even further. Others see it as pressure finally catching up, especially with the possibility of a documentary hanging over everything. But either way, the shift is real, and it's happening at a moment where every decision carries more weight than ever before. Behind the scenes, this is where the real decisions start getting made. Teams step in, conversations get more serious, and the focus shifts from emotional reactions to long-term thinking. Because once things reach this level, it's no longer about pride or winning an argument. It's about protecting careers, reputations, and future opportunities. For King, this moment could be a turning point. He can either stay on the same path, responding loudly and keeping the conflict alive, or pivot and start rebuilding his image in a way that separates him from the chaos. And that's not easy, especially when the internet has already formed strong opinions. At the same time, 50 Cent's approach hasn't changed at all. He's still moving quietly, still letting speculation grow, and still keeping people guessing without revealing too much. And that kind of patience keeps attention locked in, because the unknown becomes part of the story.
The longer that gap stays open, the more tension builds around what might happen next. People start connecting dots, revisiting old clips, and forming opinions before anything is even confirmed. That's how anticipation works. It builds momentum without needing constant updates. For the Harris family, unity still matters, but now it comes with a different level of pressure. Standing together publicly is one thing, but handling a situation like this behind the scenes takes coordination, timing, and careful messaging. Every move has to be calculated because one wrong step can pull everything back into the spotlight instantly. At this stage, it's no longer just about a feud. It's about control over the narrative and what the future looks like after everything settles. And the reality is, whatever happens next won't just affect right now. It's going to shape how people remember everyone involved long after the noise fades. The wave of diss tracks has slowed down. The energy around the merch and cannabis brand isn't as loud as it once was. What once felt non-stop has clearly cooled off, at least on the surface. But the real question is why? Is it because King reached out behind the scenes, got guidance from family or management, or realized things were starting to spiral? That part hasn't been made public, and only him and the people around him truly know what led to this shift. But one thing is clear, the situation has entered a completely different phase now. T.I., on the other hand, hasn't stepped back at all. If anything, he's standing firm and pushing forward with confidence. And when the documentary rumors started heating up, he didn't stay quiet. He responded directly and challenged 50 Cent to go head-to-head in any format. He even made it clear he's ready for a documentary, for Doc, sending a strong message. Either he's not concerned about what could come out, or he's making sure he appears completely unshaken in front of the public. To be fair, T.I. isn't new to pressure. He's faced serious legal situations in the past, including federal charges that led to prison time, and he's managed to move through public controversy before. That kind of experience can change how someone handles moments like this. What might seem overwhelming to others can feel more manageable to someone who's been through it already. But this is where the difference really shows. What feels manageable for someone with decades in the spotlight is not the same for someone still figuring things out. King is only 21, and this level of attention, pressure, and long-term impact is a completely different challenge. Just weeks ago, King was moving with full confidence, speaking loudly, pushing back hard, and acting like the Harris name alone could carry him through anything. That energy was real, and it fueled everything he did at the peak of this situation. But now, the reality is starting to look different, because a diss track and a documentary don't operate the same way at all. One is fast, reactive, and fades over time. The other sticks around, gets replayed, analyzed, and brought up long after the moment passes. A diss track might dominate for a few days, but a documentary can live on for years, showing up on platforms, getting clipped, and becoming part of ongoing conversations. That's a completely different level of impact.
King may have been ready for a back and forth in music, but this is something completely different. This isn't just rap anymore. This has turned into a full media war, and going up against someone who literally builds media empires for a living is a whole different level of challenge. Online reactions have been split right down the middle on platforms like X and Reddit. Some people are giving 50 Cent credit for staying patient and playing the long game. They see the documentary move as a final checkmate, something that doesn't just win the moment, but ends the conversation without even needing a diss track. But not everyone agrees with that take. Others are questioning the balance of it all. They're pointing out that you've got a 50-year-old media powerhouse with major resources, huge platforms, and industry reach going up against a 21-year-old whose main presence is on social media. That gap in age, experience, and power stands out, and for some people, it doesn't sit right, even if they believe King played a role in escalating things. At the same time, there's a bigger conversation happening underneath all of this. People are starting to ask what this situation says about hip-hop right now, because the culture has always rewarded boldness, standing your ground, and matching energy when challenged. That's been part of its identity for years.
But things aren't the same anymore. The rules have shifted. The people at the top aren't just artists, they're brands, business figures, and media players with full teams behind them. And that changes everything about how conflicts play out, because now the tools go way beyond music. We're talking production deals, streaming platforms, social media networks, all working together to amplify impact. That means a move like a documentary hits completely different than anything from the past. 100 diss tracks might control the moment, trend for a few days, and get people talking. But a documentary can reshape how someone is seen entirely. It sticks to their name. It follows them into future deals, interviews, and opportunities. And that's a whole different level of influence. That's the shift happening right in front of everyone. This isn't just about who has better bars anymore. It's about who controls the bigger narrative and who has the tools to make that narrative last. Everything comes full circle here. What started as a loud emotional clash has turned into something far more calculated and long-term. The noise of the moment is fading, but the consequences are just getting started. And that's what people are really paying attention to now. This isn't just about two sides going back and forth anymore. It's about how power actually works in today's industry. One side moved fast, reacted in real time, and put everything out there for the public to see. The other stayed quiet, observed, and potentially lined up something that could drop all at once and shift everything. That contrast shows the real difference between reacting to a moment and controlling a narrative over time. And in this situation, that difference could decide how everything is remembered moving forward. For King, this is a defining moment, not just because of what's already happened, but because of what he chooses to do next. Pulling back, moving smarter, and choosing when to speak could change how people see King just as much as those earlier viral moments did. That shift alone can reshape perception if it's handled the right way. At the same time, the audience is more aware than ever. People aren't just watching for drama anymore, they're watching for strategy, outcomes, and who actually benefits when everything plays out. And that level of attention makes every move feel bigger, because now everything is being analyzed in real time and remembered long after it happens. If the documentary does drop, it won't just reopen the conversation, it could completely redefine it, bringing in new viewers, new opinions, and a level of scrutiny that goes far beyond the original back and forth. That kind of shift doesn't fade quickly. It sticks, resurfaces, and keeps the situation alive in ways that are hard to control. For the Harris family, that means the focus can't just be on responding anymore. It has to be on adapting. Because once the battlefield changes, the same strategies don't work the same way. What worked in a fast-moving online exchange won't necessarily work against something structured, produced, and widely distributed. That's a completely different challenge. At this point, the story isn't just about conflict, it's about evolution. It's about how situations grow, how narratives are shaped, and how quickly things can shift from entertainment into something with real consequences. Right now, everything is sitting in that tension, waiting to see what drops next. Because whatever comes after this won't just add to the story, it could define it completely. It might feel like everything is at a standstill, but it's not calm.
It's pressure building under the surface. That quiet phase where nothing major has dropped yet, but everyone knows something could happen at any moment. And somehow, that silence feels even louder. There are more questions than answers right now. Will the documentary actually be released, or is the idea of it already doing enough on its own? Because even without footage or a trailer, just the possibility has already changed how people are talking about everyone involved. That's the power of anticipation. It builds pressure without needing proof. People start forming opinions early, picking sides, revisiting old clips, and connecting dots, whether they have the full story or not. And once those opinions lock in, they're hard to change, no matter what comes later. For King, this moment is critical, not just because of what he already said, but because of what he does next. Every move now feels amplified. Every post, every appearance, even silence itself becomes part of the narrative. People are watching closely, and there's another reality too. The music industry doesn't wait. Timing matters, momentum matters, and public perception can open doors just as fast as it can close them. So if the focus stays on controversy, it becomes harder to shift attention back to the music. And that's a tough position for any artist trying to grow and build something long-term.
At the same time, 50 Cent doesn't have to rush anything. His position lets him move on his own timing, and that's what makes this whole situation even more unpredictable. The longer he waits, the more the tension builds and the bigger the impact whatever he drops could have. That imbalance keeps showing up clearly, one side reacting in real time, while the other is possibly setting up something that lands later but hits way harder. And that difference in timing can decide everything. Meanwhile, the audience is locked in, watching closely, debating every angle, and waiting for the next move. Because at this point, it's not just about what's true or false, it's about what sticks, what people remember, and what gets repeated the most. And that's the final layer to all of this. In situations like this, perception can slowly become reality. The version of the story that's told the loudest and the longest is usually the one people believe. Right now, everything is sitting in that space between what already happened and what might be coming next. And once that next move drops, whatever it is, it won't just continue the story, it could define it completely. This is the world King Harris stepped into. When he started posting about 50 Cent's mother, it may have felt like a regular back and forth, but the game around him had already changed. This isn't just rap anymore, and the rules aren't the same. What looked like a typical exchange turned into something much bigger because he was moving like it was only about music, while the other side was playing a completely different game. And then there's 50 Cent's motivation in all of this. If this documentary is real, it's not just about the conflict, not even close. It serves multiple purposes at once. It feeds content into his production company. It keeps his name active in headlines, and it reinforces the image he's built for years. Someone you don't want to cross. That's been his pattern for a long time. He doesn't just respond, he turns situations into opportunities, into content, into something that keeps working for him long after the moment is over. And in this case, whether the documentary actually drops or not, it may have already done exactly what it was meant to do, because the idea alone shifted everything. The energy changed, the tone shifted, the balance of power moved, and not a single frame has even been released. That's what makes it so effective. It doesn't even have to drop to have impact. For King, this might be one of the toughest lessons in the industry. It's not about who speaks the loudest or reacts the fastest. It's about who has leverage, who controls the bigger platform, and who can shape a story that lasts. King came in with energy, words, and visibility, but 50 came in with infrastructure, reach, and a track record of turning moments like this into something much bigger. And that difference is what shaped everything that followed. If the reports about King stepping back or trying to reach out are true, that doesn't automatically mean weakness. It can also mean awareness, recognizing the scale of what he stepped into and understanding that this isn't something you can outpost or outtalk your way through. But the reality is, that realization might have come a little late, because once something like this starts moving, it doesn't slow down easily. At the end of the day, this isn't just about a feud anymore. It's about how the game has evolved and how quickly things can shift when different levels of power collide. If you made it this far,
Make sure you like, subscribe, share this video, and drop a comment with your thoughts, because this story is still unfolding and there's definitely more to come.